as $2 Tuesdays at wagertalk.com and sportsmemo.com, where you can get the hottest handicappers' best bet or daily package for only $2.
All right, welcome in. It is March Madness. The madness has begun here on this Friday. It is now the 19th of March, 2021. Plenty of going on right now in college basketball, but we got 4 games here that we want to talk about and break down for you. And those 4 games will include Wisconsin taking on North Carolina, Syracuse taking on San Diego State, Mizzou taking on Oklahoma, VCU, Oregon. And we will cover these games today, of course, with 3 of the absolute best that Wager Talk has to offer. Please welcome in Steve Merrill's in the house, Dave Koken in the house, as is the Godfather, Mr. Ralph Michaels below me here. Take a look, guys, at the Twitter handles as well. Always some good laughs and great information can be found there at Steve Merrill, at Dave Koken, at Cal Sports LV. And let me go to you first there, Steve, because it's a bit overwhelming here with the amount of games and what we've got coming up here over the next, the next 48 hours. But talk to me about how you've been. I know you killed the season. And more importantly, talk to us. What do you got up at wagertalk.com here?
Yeah, it was a great college basketball regular season. Finished number 1 overall at wagertalk.com. 59-35 against the spread. 82.5% return on investment in just over 3 months. And the best is yet to come, in my opinion. I love the NCAA tournament. It's been extremely profitable for me over the decades. And I've got a rare, and I do mean rare, 5% best bet. I've only had 1 or 2 the last couple months, I think, in college hoops. It's still on the board for later today. And in fact, I've got 4 best bets right now, a 4-for-1 special that includes that rare 5% best bet right now at wagertalk.com.
Awesome stuff. All right, 4 games currently underway as of this taping right now here, guys. And Dave, I know it's college basketball on our mind, but I do want to remind folks, too, that you have an unbelievable NHL season continuing to roll on. And no, don't forget, guys, baseball just around the corner. Nobody more profitable than Dave Koken. So I know we're excited. It's good about college hoops, but we're excited for baseball around the corner as well, Dave.
Yep. And, I'm the oddball because what am I watching? Exhibition baseball. I'm not kidding. The Cardinals-Mets game is on behind me. I'm getting geared up for that. And by the way, the baseball package will include some futures that I'm going to get to probably in the next few days. I haven't decided exactly what I'm going to put up, but that will be included in the package. So we got basketball, hockey, baseball. A lot of fun.
Yep, and combo package too, guys. Get his Major League Baseball season. Get the rest of the NHL season as well. Visit his page at wagertalk.com. And Ralph, I know you are geared up. I'm not sure you have slept, my friend, but you are ready to go. It is March Madness. What do you got going on at Wager Talk?
Well, nothing for today. I'll be ready to post my plays for tomorrow coming up. I have a winner already. The first half, Arkansas Colgate under the total. That's in the books. And I'll let people know my 5%, which has tipped off, was on Texas Tech. We'll see how that happens. I'll have at least 2 4% best bets for Saturday's card, perhaps even 3. And again, that'll be available shortly after we sign off with today's show.
All right, guys. Well, without any further ado, come on, let's dive into one of these matchups here tonight. We'll start with Wisconsin and North Carolina here. This one's going to be 7:10 p.m. Eastern time tip. We got a opening line of 139 on this one. I'm seeing 136.5, even 137. The line is 1.5 now. North Carolina hasn't moved an awful lot. So, Merrill, let me come to you. To me, it's a battle of Wisconsin. Got a bunch of upperclassmen and seniors taking on some very large freshmen at North Carolina. Something's got to give. Who do you trust in this matchup?
Well, first of all, Joe Ranieri, we got to warn Dave Koken that if Tony Finn is watching and hears that he's watching exhibition baseball, he better lock his front door
Good
because
point.
Tony's going to be over there pretty soon to join the party. I love it. But this is a game I would have loved to use Wisconsin, guys. And when I saw the matchups announced last Sunday, I was like, oh, boy, that's what I wanted, a slow-down half-court team against North Carolina. That's how I love to play against Roy Williams for years now. But when I dug into it more, and I had a lot of other games I'd like today, it just wasn't quite strong enough to make the card. I just don't trust Wisconsin. They've been in this situation a few other times this year, and they've come up short even with the matchup edges. With that said, though, I still like Wisconsin in this game. Wasn't quite strong enough to be a best bet, but I love playing against North Carolina with slow-down half-court teams. And keep in mind, Wisconsin was a little disappointing, but they still were in the almighty Big Ten Conference. You look at KenPom, they'd be like a 3 or 4 seed still, which I think is a little overrated, but still just shows how much potential they do have. And one other thing I'll point out about North Carolina, they do look like a little bit of a public play overall in the tournament. A lot of it's probably name recognition, but if you look at ESPN.com for all the picks for the millions of brackets, the 1s and 2 seeds were the top 8 picks to win the championship. And then you had some 3s and 4s. And then you had North Carolina was like 11th overall to win the championship in all the brackets. Now, once again, I think a lot of that might just be non-fans that just see the name and they pick them. But once again, I do think Wisconsin qualifies here as the ugly duckling in this game.
All right, the ugly duckling. But, Dave, we talked about it, Wisconsin all year long, especially second half of the season, just did not live up to the heavyweight title that most people thought they would be. How do you approach it?
Well, North Carolina is going to get the buck of the betting action here because, quite frankly, Wisconsin just isn't beating anybody. Look at their wins. Penn State, Northwestern, Nebraska, Penn State, Maryland on the road. And you get back to January, and then you see a few decent wins. Maryland, Rutgers on the road wasn't a bad win. Michigan State on the road wasn't a bad win. Beat Loyola. But those were all early. Down the stretch, they beat nobody. They beat Penn State, Northwestern, and Nebraska, and Penn State again. Those are the wins they've had since the end of January. I can't bet on a team that's in that kind of a slump. And yet, fundamentally, I think they match up well with North Carolina. So I'm nowhere in the game. I mean, I went back and forth, tried to make cases both ways, and ended up just saying to hell with it.
You got to give the edge, Ralph Michaels, to Wisconsin, right? Number of seniors, experience, been there, done that. The 2 top scorers for North Carolina have never played in the tournament. How do you approach it?
Well, you also have a North Carolina head coach. Obviously, he's had better teams in the past. Roy Williams is 29-0 straight up in round number 1 between Kansas and North Carolina. So, does that give him a coaching edge? Who knows? But, just like we saw Michigan State, this North Carolina team isn't like those other 14 teams at North Carolina that he won in the first round. But I just can't get with Wisconsin either. I mean, you look down the stretch, Dave said it, since February 1st, they beat Penn State, Nebraska, Northwestern, and Penn State. They've lost to every top team. Their 2% shooting percentage is 46%, which is number 292 in the country. North Carolina can attack the rebounds. North Carolina is going to get the rebounds. I do lean with North Carolina. Didn't make my card, though.
All right, there you go, guys. That, again, 7:10 Eastern Time tip here tonight for that Wisconsin-North Carolina game. Let's keep it in the ACC. Let's talk a little Syracuse taking on San Diego State here tonight. And this one opened up as a total of 139, and I'm seeing 138.5 now. The 3 remains there. San Diego State laying 3 in this one. And Dave, I don't know. The last couple of really good, productive couple of games for Syracuse, they rattled off some great wins, almost beat Virginia. Here they are in the tournament, but boy, do you trust them against San Diego State?
Not enough to bet him. The problem I have with Syracuse is I don't know which Syracuse team is going to show up from one game to the next. They've had some very good games, and they've had some games that were just horrendous, and they've had some games where they were both great and terrible in the same game. Go back to the Notre Dame game a few weeks ago, and they're down 20 in the game, and they end up coming back and winning by 8. So it was 2 games in one. If the good Syracuse shows up, they'll be able to beat San Diego State because I actually think they're more athletic. But I just can't bank on that team. As for San Diego State, the downside is they just haven't been beating anybody because they're stuck in the Mountain West. that's not a real rip on the Mountain West. It's just that San Diego State, a lot of games with the Air Force, Wyoming, San Jose State, Fresno State, they do have the good wins against Boise State. They ran through the tournament impressively. Wyoming, Nevada, Utah State. They've been on a roll. No question about that. I don't know. I mean, they're a good team, but I don't know if I've seen just about every game they've played this year, and I still don't know how good they are. So it's kind of this is where I find out, I guess, because they're going out of conference to face a solid Syracuse team. If they win, San Diego State could get on a roll and could very well be playing in the Sweet 16. So could Syracuse. It's just too tough a game for me.
Current form, Ralph? I mean, Syracuse ended it pretty well. San Diego State, like Dave said, continues to roll here. How are you going to approach it?
I like San Diego State. I like them enough to make them a play. So I am clearly on them. I look at the road wins for Syracuse. Syracuse just 2-8 straight up on the road. And you could say, yes, the Mountain West compared to the ACC. We know the ACC is stronger, but this is the weakest ACC conference probably ever. And you look at strength of schedule and you say, well, San Diego State was number 109. Syracuse was only 57. There's not that much of a difference of what you would expect between these two teams. I think there's an advantage play at Hinkle. San Diego State doesn't shoot a lot of threes, but they are 37.5%, which is number 28 in the country. We know they're going to have to make some threes to bust that Syracuse 2-3 zone, and no one really ever busts the zone. Boeheim always has them playing well down the stretch. But being in the smaller arena at Hinkle, I think it does give them an edge. And Syracuse has only played 4 top 20 defenses. Rutgers, they lost. North Carolina, they split. Clemson, they split. So when they have played a tougher D, their shooting percentage has gone way down. Big home road dichotomy for Syracuse. I'm going to fade them away from home and back the Aztecs.
All right, Aztecs it is for Ralph and Merrill. This is going to be an interesting game, and I think Dave nailed it. We're going to learn a lot about both these teams here tonight, moving forward. How do you have it?
Yeah, Ralph brings up a great point, by the way, about Hinkle. I mentioned this in the video I did earlier this week when we analyzed this game with Tony Mejia. I also talked about this game on Wager Talk today back on Tuesday with Teddy and Prez. And I mentioned that it is in Hinkle. It's only 6,500 seats. The Carrier Dome, 49,000. Sight lines are very different. San Diego State, I do think, is more used to a smaller arena. They're also from a smaller conference. And if you look at Syracuse this year, 13-1 at home, 3-8 away. And I make this game 4.5. The line opened 2. It's up to 3. It was obviously a shame not to have the tournament last year, but the biggest shame was for San Diego State. They were my dark horse last year. They were a top 10 offense in efficiency and defensive efficiency, and they played at a really slow half-court pace. They were going to be my dark horse in the tournament last year. We just didn't get ahead, unfortunately. I don't think they're as good this year. But like Dave said, both of these teams could make a run. They're going to get West Virginia likely in the next round. So it wouldn't surprise to see either one of these teams in the Sweet 16. But I like San Diego State here. It always concerns you to play against Syracuse zone when you're not familiar with it. But the fact this is the first game and they've had a full week to prepare is a big difference in the quick turnaround when they only have one day to prepare in the next round. So I like San Diego State here, and I think we get some line value as well.
All right. Love it, guys. All right, we got a couple of more games we're going to talk about, and we're going to talk about Mizzou and Oklahoma, which I think is also going to be a fascinating matchup here. A couple of old Big 8 rivals. How do you like that, Dave? Huh? A couple of classic Big 8 rivals there. And Ralph, I'm coming to you first, my friend. This game opened up Oklahoma -2, total at 141. There are some people that have no idea why Oklahoma is the favorite in this one here. How do you see these two teams matching up?
Well, I sort of agree. Because I made the game pick. So I clearly agree with that philosophy. I look at Oklahoma, and it was a game of stretches. When they beat Kansas and Texas and Alabama, then they came back and beat West Virginia in double overtime on the road. But you look at the way they finished, and the offense has really struggled down the stretch. The Kansas State game was a poor loss. Losing the back-to-back games to Oklahoma State, where Cunningham showed he's going to be a very good NBA player, than just beating Iowa State down the stretch. I see the offensive performance, and I see the slower tempo down the stretch. I see Missouri with, mid-50s, both offense and defense, but their offense struggled down the stretch as well. I like the under here. I think it's going to be a feeling out game between two teams. And, it was in the mix to make my card for tomorrow. I haven't finalized it yet, but it's certainly a strong lean for me on under the total.
Opened up 141. There are some 139.5s out there. And Steve, I don't know, coaching edge here, Lon Kruger, you think maybe getting a little love there? Too much love against this Mizzou team?
It's a tough call. This is the game in which on the bracket I went with Oklahoma, but I did mention if you're doing some secondary brackets, this was one of my secondary picks would have been Missouri. So I was kind of back and forth on this one. I think it's a tight matchup. One thing I'll point out about Oklahoma, and Ralph probably has some data on this if he wants to type it up, while I'm talking about it, but they're 1-5 straight up, 0-6 ATS their last 6. A lot of times teams that come into the tournament in bad form like that actually do fairly well, I believe. And there's a couple reasons. First of all, they're ugly ducklings, like I said earlier. You get some line value. But also, this is a new season. And if you're good enough to make the tournament on a 1-5 straight up run, you probably have had a pretty good season overall. Missouri, meanwhile, has alternated wins and losses. They're also just 3-6 straight up their last 9, just 2-7 against the spread. So the angle really kind of qualifies with both teams today, and that's tomorrow rather, and that's one of the reasons I've been going back and forth on this. But wouldn't be surprised to see one of these teams play the number one a little tough in the next round. It's going to be Gonzaga. Pick who you want in this one. It's really not going to matter. They'll be one and done at best.
Yeah, truly a pick 'em, David. Really does feel like between these two squads at this point.
No, I think Oklahoma's better than Missouri. And even though they've lost 5 out of 6, I think they're in better form than Missouri. Missouri has not played well down the stretch. They barely beat Georgia, which was a lousy team in the first round of the SEC tournament. Then get beat by Arkansas. Got hammered by Georgia. Got hammered by Mississippi. And they had some other losses that were closer, but they weren't great losses. Oklahoma's been losing to real good teams. Okay, outside of Kansas State, and that was a bad loss. No mistake about that. And maybe they haven't recovered from that. But overtime to Oak State, a 4-point loss to Oak State, very close game with Texas, good battle with Kansas. I think Oklahoma's the better team. I think Oklahoma's the better coach team with Lon Kruger against Quanzo Martin. I think the Sooners will get through this game.
Go ahead, Ralph.
Steve, to answer your question, I went back to 2014. Teams that are on at least a 3-game ATS losing streak are 7-11 against the spread, 11-7 straight up. I agree with you. That was an old-time system that was productive on the positive side. But actually, looking back in the last couple years, since 2017, teams on a 3-game ATS losing streak are 2-5 the last 2 years.
All right, good stuff.
Thank you.
Yep, good stuff there, guys. All right, one more game on the board here. We're going to take a look at before we get to our best bets, and that's going to be Oregon taking on VCU. Now, this opens up Oregon at 6, and a lot of VCU love coming out here in the marketplace. I'm seeing 5.5s in a number of places. The total opened up at 137. We know there might be some defense in this one, but Steve, let me come to you here. 137.5 right now is what I'm seeing across the board. I don't know. Would you approach it from the side, from the total? Is Oregon not getting enough credit here? Are they undervalued in your mind?
Yeah, one thing we haven't talked about on the show yet today, guys, is how we'll start handicapping conferences a little more as the tournament goes on. And it's something every year it's important to figure out, maybe which conference was underrated, which was overrated. I think there's no doubt that the Big Ten was by far the most dominant and deep conference this year. Question becomes, did they beat each other up too much in the regular season? That is a concern I have in the physical Big Ten. Ralph touched upon, how North Carolina coming out of the ACC was definitely down a notch this year. Pac-12 was also down a notch. Yet, lo and behold, what did we have last night on Thursday? We had a Pac-12 shorthanded underdog beat a powerhouse Big Ten team. Now, I know Michigan State was winning and covering the majority of that game, probably should have, and they also were up and down all season. They were playing well the last month, but they were a huge money burner earlier. But, for what it's worth, it's only a 1-game sample. I don't put too much into it, but we did have a Pac-12 upset already. So wouldn't it be a shock if maybe the Pac-12 plays a little bit better in this tournament than expected? I think Oregon has a good coach at Altman. This is maybe a candidate to be a surprise team. By the way, if they go all the way, I believe, to the Elite Eight, they would face USC if USC keeps making the run as a 6th seed. So wouldn't that be something? But I've actually got Oregon going a few rounds in my tournament bracket. VCU more than capable of keeping this close and maybe covering the number, but I've got Oregon at least winning it straight up.
Well, listen, Pac-12, nobody better, Dave, than Oregon in the Pac-12, 14-4 in conference play here. Do you like the number here at 5.5?
That's a holdup. But I think Oregon, their defense is complex enough to give a questionable VCU offense some problems. And it's Dana Altman. This guy is a monster at this time of year. Throughout the Oregon State game, it was so much bigger to the Beavers than it was to the Ducks. Oregon already had their place secured, and they'd already beaten Oregon State. Actually, beaten Oregon State to end the regular season. I just think they were flat for the game. I think they're getting through this one. I don't know. I don't think it's going to be a blowout, so I'm not real comfortable at this point laying the points. But if I do play the game, it'll be Oregon.
Gonna go Oregon right there. All right. Let me ask you, Ralph. VCU, have they faced an offense like what they're going to see here in this Oregon team all year?
Now, let's not forget, this is also a huge coaching mismatch. We remember Shaka Smart's VCU teams, but Mike Rhodes spent 3 years at Rice, never got to the tournament. He took VCU as an 8 seed in 2019, lost their first round game, against Dana Altman, who Dave's mentioned several times on this show, always has his team prepared best down the road. We talk about Boeheim. We talk about some of those March Madness coaches. And then when I look at, the turnovers, Oregon's play some defense. And let's not forget, Oregon's starting 5 did not play together until February 25th. So they had guys in and out, but Altman didn't have everyone that was starting 5 now down the stretch. Is that why they won 5 of their last 6 and got to lost to Oregon State? I believe so. You look at turnover percentage. Oregon on offense, number 69. They take care of the ball. They don't turn the ball over. You have Richardson, and then you have Duarte, and you have Hardy. So you have multiple guys that can handle the ball. We know VCU still pressures, but VCU on offense is number 264 in turnovers. They have you got Baldwin as a freshman and Nyland as a sophomore. But if Nyland's going to have to handle the ball more to help with that defensive pressure, it's going to take away from his shooting. I am on the Oregon Ducks.
Yeah, we're a little banged up too as well, Highland. So we'll see how that works out for them. Oregon VCU here, guys. Quick reminder before we get to our best bets. Now would be a good time for you to head over to wagertalk.com and get on board with those all-access packages here. 3 days, 7-day, 30-day. Never miss a play, especially during March Madness right now. Steve Merrill, Dave Koken, Ralph Michaels. Visit their page. Opportunities galore to make it a really profitable start to March Madness. And let's start, guys, with our friends from the Gold Sheet here tonight. Let's see who they like, and they're going to go with a total here. Louisiana Tech, Ole Miss under in this matchup here, Ralph. And of course, guys, don't forget this entire write-up can be found at Wager Talk's Twitter page. Just make sure you follow Wager Talk on Twitter, and you'll have all of the Gold Sheet plays of the day posted there. Great write-ups, but looks like the under in the Ole Miss game there, Ralph.
Yeah, I mean, we were going to talk March Madness games, but let's not forget there's NIT games, and there's a lot of sneaky value with NIT games. I'm looking at both of them tomorrow because people don't bet them the same way, and you can find some value. But James will tweet that out. Follow Wager Talk on Twitter at Wager Talk, and you can read that entire write-up on why the Gold Sheet likes La Tech and Ole Miss under the total.
All right, good stuff there. All right, Merrill, coming to you, my man. 2 R's and 1 L. Talk to us. What game you got circled? Best bet for the show.
I loved a ton of games. I actually had 6 best bets for Friday at wagertalk.com. 4 of them are still available late afternoon and nighttime games, including that rare 5% best bet. So there were 10 other games left. I was looking at a few of them. I've mentioned them on the show here. I would lean towards San Diego State, as we talked about earlier. I'd lean towards Wisconsin. And one other game I used in my public video, still available on Wager Talk TV. One of the most public plays is Rutgers tonight. For what that's worth, that opened a pick 'em. I make Clemson a pick 'em, yet it's up to 2 now. Rutgers. I think there's some value with Clemson, but of those 3, I think I like Wisconsin probably the best of those 3 to talk about here once again. I'm concerned about how they didn't play well down the stretch. North Carolina played their best ball down the stretch, but just a couple months ago, we would have loved Wisconsin as an underdog against North Carolina, and I still love the matchup. Much stronger conference, slow down versus fast tempo team. By the way, big free throw shooting edge. Didn't mention that earlier. 77% versus 67% in what should be a tight game. And I'll take the Big Ten underdog here with the slow down half court style against a North Carolina team that needs to play fast. And by the way, North Carolina did beat Louisville big a few weeks ago. But earlier in February, the last two slow down tournament teams they've played from the ACC, they lost by 12 at Virginia and lost by 13 at Clemson. Roy Williams and company does not like to play Wisconsin style. I think the Badgers can dictate the tempo and win this game as an underdog tonight.
All right, good stuff there, Steve. And don't forget Dave Koken at wagertalk.com. Get his MLB full season package and get the rest of the NHL right now. Head over to his page there. One low price, $8.95. Get them both, guys. Dave, reiterate for us exactly who you going with here tonight.
NIT playing Colorado State tonight. Look, there's no way to absolutely be sure about the mindset of either one of these teams because they wanted to be at the big dance. Colorado State played their way out of it. Quite frankly, if they'd have won one more game, they'd be in, but they didn't. Buffalo, they're in the finals of the MAC, and they get knocked out. And they got knocked out wire to wire in that game. I tend to think it's tougher for a team that lost in the finals of their conference tournament to turn around and play in the NIT because they were that close. Colorado State also might have, weirdly as it sounds, a little bit of a site advantage. It looks like there's a decent contingent of Colorado State people that are actually going to be at that game tonight. About 2,500 will be attending this matchup down in Denton, Texas. I'm going to go with the Rams to eliminate Buffalo and live up to being a number one seed in the NIT.
All right, good stuff there. I'm back in Rutgers. I took them on the money line, minus 130 in this one. Clemson 11-1 at home, but they ain't home here. I have no confidence in Clemson whatsoever. I absolutely believe Rutgers is the better team, played in the better conference. Give me Rutgers. And Ralph, yes, go ahead, Ralph. Where are you going? I know you're coming. I know where you're coming. I just wanted to get it out because I wanted to make sure.
Did you skip my turn? You went
no, I already know what you're on. Go ahead. What do you got?
It's a good thing we were on a best bet run, Joe, because if you jinxed us, I'm going to jump back to Steve for 1 second. 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020, and 2021, Steve has used one college basketball 5% play. It was December 8th, 2020. Tennessee minus 5.5. It was a winner. So we are talking his second 5% college basketball play in 6 seasons. Wow. Make sure you tweet that out, Steve. I am going to, this is sort of a, I'm going to bring this back because Steve mentioned this in North Carolina. I am on Cal Santa Barbara. Creighton's a great team. But you know what? You are going to be fouling early. You have a Creighton team that is number 329 at free throw percentage. Santa Barbara can rebound. Santa Barbara played great in conference. You can start following this team if you're down with 10 minutes to go and start knocking out point by points when they're missing free throws. And this is a stat from a good friend of mine, Brad Powers, who I worked with at North Coast. Teams that are plus 10 points or more free throw shooting percentage in the first round have gone 6-0 ATS the last 5 years. So here we have a 64% team against a team that shoots 76%, a 12-point difference. UC Santa Barbara, my best bet.
All right, against Creighton, guys. And don't forget, head over to wagertalk.com. Still plenty of opportunities to make it a profitable March Madness. And you just visit Steve's page, visit Dave's page, visit Ralph's page, and let's recap those best bets for you one more time. If you happen to just be joining us, Ralph, UC Santa Barbara, take the 7.5. Dave Koken likes the Colorado State, the Rams minus 1.5. Merrill's going Wisconsin, taking that 1.5. I'm taking Rutgers on the money line, and our friends from the Gold Sheet taking on the under in the Ole Miss La Tech game, 129.5. All right, the madness has begun, guys. Game's underway. Plays, best bets, all up right now at wagertalk.com. Make sure you visit them. Hit that bell in the upper right-hand corner. Subscribe, and then come back and join us again on Mondays. We recap it all, and we get you ready for another week of March Madness. On behalf of Steve Merrill, Dave Koken, and Ralph Michaels, best of luck with your plays, guys. We'll talk to you on Monday.